Welcome everyone into episode 5 now of Floppy Action, KSR's new basketball breakdown show. We've got myself, Zach Gagan, Brandon Ramsey next to me. Stephen Peak has relocated himself now. He's in the center here. He's going to be directing all of our, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, our play movements. And while me and Brandon jibber jabber around, he's going to try and keep up with us as we go along. Last time we were a little bit negative, did a lot of defensive breakdown issues that have kind of been plaguing Kentucky. Things picked up. Maybe UK watched our video, as we've been saying. Against Vanderbilt, Kentucky did play a little bit better. Vanderbilt's not a very good team. But today what we're going to do is go into some out-of-bounds plays. That has kind of been an issue as well. Defending out-of-bounds plays, Kentucky has picked that up as well over the last game. They made some small minor changes that we saw work out in front of us at the Vanderbilt game. We're also going to break down the final play against Florida from, what is that, 2 weeks ago now, I think?
It's been a little bit.
It has been a while, but it's a talking point. You know, it's a coaching decision. We're going to kind of dive into it. I'm sure we all have different opinions about it. We are about 2.5, maybe 3 hours away from the Gonzaga game as we record this, but we're going to start by diving into a couple of plays that Brandon has queued up for us here, queued up for us here, where we're going to focus on Trey Mitchell and Zvonimir Ivišić kind of operating as the hub of the offense here, and how they have some similarities and can play off of each other and work well, you know, just facilitating the offense. So we'll dive right into our first one here. We're going back to the Arkansas game where Kentucky snuck out a win here on the road. It was a low-scoring game, kind of. I think, was this the first game that Kentucky's scoring kind of dipped down a little bit? Maybe the second one?
South Carolina was before.
Yeah, so back-to-back games here where Kentucky's offense has kind of, it sputtered a little bit. But we got some really good movement here with Trey Mitchell as the hub of the offense. Brandon, why don't you go ahead and break us down?
Absolutely. So something I want to dive into today is how Kentucky, as Zach said, is able to run some offense through the 5-man, whether that be Trey Mitchell when they go a little smaller, or then Zvonimir Ivišić when he's in there, some of the skills he brings to the table that are honestly pretty similar to Trey Mitchell. Here at the end of the Arkansas game, this is kind of when Kentucky put the dagger in him, so to speak, and Reed Sheppard ends up hitting a 3 here. But just take a look at this ball movement as the ball gets moved around, and Kentucky's kind of changing sides of the floor just for the sake of changing sides of the floor, and sometimes that's really good to get the defense shifted. And here, off a little pitch back, Reed Sheppard starts to drive it in. He hits Trey Mitchell on the throwback. Obviously, right here, you have a pick and pop opportunity. Like, Trey Mitchell can shoot this shot. He's shooting, probably 35, 36% from 3 this year. Has made, several shots like this. He ends up turning this one down. He gets a closeout, so he's able to drive it back towards the nail, towards the middle of the floor. And Reed Sheppard spaces away. Trey Mitchell draws some help as he attacks the closeout. And then Reed Sheppard, the best three-point shooter in college basketball, honestly, based on percentages. I mean, he's a 55% three-point shooter. He needs to shoot all of these. And it's a little deep, but it's not, there's a contest, but it's a little late because Trey Mitchell's able to draw that help. And you want him shooting as many of these as humanly possible. Something I've always said, like, if you're shooting 55%, probably means you're not shooting enough. Like that's actually too high of a percentage. But in these last few games, we've actually seen Reed Sheppard squeeze a few more off, I feel like. I think he's starting to be more aggressive, and that could be a really good thing for Kentucky's offense down the stretch. But just excellent offensive execution here between Trey Mitchell and Reed Sheppard. We had a couple little give and goes there. We had a couple pitchbacks. We had a couple throwbacks to the pop. And Kentucky's offense this year, and it's something we've talked about on the show before, is they have guys that create help, like they draw help by being able to drive it. Then you have shooters like Reed Sheppard that will make you pay if you help off of them. So that's a really good situation for your offense to be in, guys that draw the help and guys that you can't help off of. And you saw that here as Kentucky put it away finally in Fayetteville.
Yeah, one might say they have guys that can pass, dribble, and shoot, Brandon.
Yes.
Another thing, just kind of sticking with this play here, Reed Sheppard has NBA range, and as Brandon was saying, that is a clean shot for him. Even if the guy is within 2-3 feet of his airspace, he's able to squeeze that one off and get a clean look. And more often than not, he's still hitting those shots. Even as we've seen him shoot more and more, he can still shoot well beyond the 3-point line. And this is obviously kind of before Trey Mitchell has suffered this lingering back issue that has kind of been nagging at him to the point where now he's not playing. We still don't really know if he's going to play today against Gonzaga. And this is when Kentucky was using him more as the hub of the offense, and you can see where he is a guy that is just a smart basketball player, as we've talked about time and time again. You can have him at the 4, even with playing with alongside a guy like Ugo, who's pretty much just not even involved in this play at all, and it just works out that way where Ugo's just kind of making this, so this is a 4-on-4, which is still going to be in Kentucky's favor when you can create all this ball movement. You've got guys in the corner here, even with it's kind of a little bunched up, but I think they're still spaced out enough that, like we said, all Reed Sheppard needs is just a foot really of clean airspace to get off the shot. But we can go ahead and dive on to the next play, Brandon, unless you've got something else.
Big Z has all those same offensive skills that Trey Mitchell has. He's able to shoot it from 3-point range. It's a pick and pop threat. He's an elite passer. Like some of his vision offensively is kind of through the roof. And
almost too much for his own good.
Sometimes he throws some really gutsy passes, I'll put it that way. But as you'll see here, I mean, just like that behind the back pass, which was like the first thing he did in a Kentucky uniform.
Literally.
It works out. So here he's obviously operating there at the top of the key. He's playing the 5 here, but he's also the initiator of the offense. So we get into a little handoff action here with Justin Edwards. So yeah, Justin's coming up, and Rob Dillingham right here as we're frozen. Rob Dillingham doesn't even know he's open yet, but Zvonimir somehow does. Yeah, he's not open.
Big Z throws him open.
Yeah, Big Z throws him open underneath the basket, and then what's really good here is Justin Edwards finishing his cut to the rim. That's something you talk a lot about in coaching, is that anytime you cut off the ball, regardless of what it is, you want to finish your cut at the rim to make them guard it all the way down there. If nothing else, that pulls your help open, like maybe Reed Sheppard would be open if you can finish that cut to the rim or whatever. And then here, Rob Dillingham, excellent vision. Yeah, I mean, Steven has pointed out, I mean, Reed's man is coming down here a little bit, so he could have, if he cracks down even harder, you could hit it to Reed Sheppard for a 3, but Dilly's able to find Justin Edwards here on the cut, and he finishes it.
Is that a no-look?
Both no looks.
Essentially, we had 2 no-look passes back to back.
Over the shoulder, kind of.
And we got a layup. So
it's like the and1 mixtape.
We're turning into a little bit of that, but that's why you want skilled basketball players. Is yes, this is a little bit of a highlight reel here of a couple really cool things happen with these no-look kind of touch passes over your shoulder, but Zvonimir Ivišić and Rob Dillingham are the level of players that can make those plays. It's not necessarily outside of their abilities to make plays like this. And then, like I said, you have to give Justin Edwards credit for playing hard and finishing his cut through the rim there as well. And you can see those similarities there of creating offense through the 5-man at the top of the key, whether it be Trey Mitchell, whether it be Zvonimir Ivišić. Like, those guys are skilled enough to be the hub of an offense. And what still makes that possible is having elite guards who can space the floor, draw some attention away, and allow those guys to attack positive mismatches.
And I think when we kind of go through this play again, obviously Justin's cut, this is kind of in the middle of his breakout second half here against Vanderbilt too. So he's in a mindset right now where he is trying to get as many points as he can. He knows that he's feeling himself. So he does a great job of doing the cut. I thought Jordan Burks did a great job of, he'd already hit a 3 as well, so he was kind of, his man was more onto him maybe than he would have been beforehand. Obviously, they probably didn't have a great scouting report on Jordan Burks either. Yeah, he's probably a little too close to Jordan if we're being honest.
Yes.
But Jordan does a great job of just moving himself out of the way enough to give Rob that space to find Justin cutting in the middle. And even if Reed's man comes down and is maybe a couple steps ahead, I don't know if Justin is capable of this, but you have the option where he can catch this ball and swing it right over to Reed, and you've got an easy pass. Because as I'm sure Rob could make that cross-court pass, but that's a dangerous one.
Yes.
So being able to just find Justin right here in the middle, obviously he slams it. You've got multiple options though with Reed open there, but it's all started by Big Z just being a very, very high IQ basketball player. That's a tough pass. Like we said, Rob was not open. Big Z threw him open, and he does that a lot. That's kind of similar to stuff, I know it's a crazy comparison, but that's the stuff like Nikola Jokic will do, where he throws guys open that aren't open. And that's a lot of that is just your guards have to be aware, and Rob did a great job of being aware of the situation, knowing that Big Z is good enough to hit him for a pass like that. And just great movement all around. Cut off ball movement was great on that one.
What do you guys think about how this guy has to go out and guard Zvonimir, and he has to stay on him because
he can hit. I believe Big Z already hit a 3 in this game as well at this point.
Yes.
So that's exactly why. And he doesn't really set a pick there. He just kind of does a brush essentially, or sets up a brush for Justin to brush by him.
Yep.
And then, like you said, Steven, number 24 for Vandy has to stay up there because if he does cut down, then Rob has a wide open pass to Big Z for a 3, and there's just a ton of options there.
Yep. So. A lot of spacing. It's all about spacing.
It's weird.
Yep.
All right. Well, let's talk some out-of-bounds plays, shall we, boys?
Plays. So, yeah, we're back at the
This is 2021.
2021 Georgia game.
Whew. Look at the players out there right now.
Yeah, we got BJ Boston.
That's a young Jacob.
We got Keon Brooks, who is like 29 years old now, playing at Washington.
Best player at Washington.
Yeah. Isaiah Jackson, who's like an NBA veteran at this point.
But the idea here that Steven's trying to point out is the out-of-bounds plays have been an issue, a recurring issue for maybe the last, I don't know, however many years, where they're just not setting themselves up in the proper position to defend these type of plays.
This was a game winner, by the way, if everybody doesn't remember.
I don't actually remember that.
Yeah, that was a game winner for Georgia
It was
there.
the one and only time I ever called into the KSR postgame show.
Oh, well, there we go.
And look where he is
To
now.
ask about
Yep.
baseline out of bounds defense.
Yep. And now we have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
We can go here.
Now we're getting into
There's
the
several-
fun stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You can pretty much pick any game and you can find something to show.
Do you guys even want to go through the Texas A&M, or do you just want to go to the more recent ones?
What were the two
I think the next one's Tennessee. Let's go ahead and go on to Tennessee.
Yeah, let's do the two that Brandon had queued up.
All right. So here, and I think everybody kind of knows what these plays are about to look like.
Because they're identical, back to back.
But there's just so many breakdowns. I mean, first and foremost, and it is equal opportunity when it comes to guys screwing up defensively on Kentucky this year. So it's never, as Freddie Mac would say, it's never personal, it's personnel.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, but right here, look at Reed Shepherd. I mean, he is standing lock-legged with his hands to his sides, facing away from the ball.
I'm not sure where he's looking.
And he's out towards the corner away from the basket. Like there's not a single thing that could happen where he would be helping the cause defensively. So that is issue number one. My issue number two, and then I'll let Zach get into some things here, is Rob Dillingham spends a lot of time on the basketball court what I call point switching. Like, he never really comes together. He'll just point and say, you got him, you got him, you got him. Now all of a sudden, when he actually probably should switch this, because I mean, Aduthiero and Rob Dillingham, obviously Aduthiero is a bigger guy, but he can guard guards. Like the entire point of having Aduthiero in the game, not the entire point, but one of the things that he brings to the table is his switchability and his versatility. So pretty much any time he's involved in a screen, it should be a switch. And here, for whatever reason, we don't switch this one, and it's a clear path to a dunk. Zach.
In UK, the players have talked a lot over the last week or two about just communication levels not being there, and that's something that they've harped on a lot, defense in particular. This is just a clear lack of communication here between Adu and Rob. It doesn't really matter whose fault it is. Someone didn't call it out right, and then the other person didn't react properly. One of my main things is, I like we said, we're not really sure what Reed is doing here. I think at least twice this year it's happened where he's had a ball thrown off his back on these inbound plays, so maybe that's kind of why they have him maybe shaded off more into the corner, but still, he's kind of just in no man's lane right now. And another thing that I'll point out here, because it'll become relevant as we get into some of the later plays, is Antonio Reeves is, in my opinion, he's too close to this shooter, where the baseline kind of acts as an extra defender there, where you got to use that line to try and, you can cheat in more and make that pass is still going to be very tough to get to this guy in the corner.
It's a great, how far? That's a long throw, isn't it?
Yes, that's a very tough throw. So if he's cheating into right there on the block, you're going to have a much better opportunity to slide in and contest whatever Connect is doing. That's going to be a very tough pass.
And
even
you
if he
still
does
have time to get there.
Exactly. And if he does make that pass, you should have enough time to get to this guy who I don't know off the top of my head.
He's
but
not a great shooter. There's no reason to be
some 40% shooter.
We love guarding bad shooters.
Yes, and not guarding great shooters.
Yeah. And if we want to say something good, like Aaron stays on his man, but Aaron's man doesn't really do anything.
Right.
So if we want to go right into the next play,
it'll look like the exact same thing.
You might think you're seeing a mirror image. The only difference is Reeves has swapped with Reed here. He actually seems to be more in tune, in check with what's going on
more
here.
Engaged.
But the exact same thing happens, and it's the exact same thing with Rob here, but instead of Adu, you've got Justin here, and the miscommunication still happens. For some reason, Rob does not, I don't know, why would you even stay with number two there? He's clogged up, you've got everyone in the paint there. Adu actually does a better job of cheating in here, but you've got there's an entire circle here with nothing going on because Rob left his man and there was no communication. The communication that's what I think it all kind of boils down to, is just a lack of overall communication. Adu even still seems unsure of what he should do at this moment, because if they try and make this corner pass, Adu's long enough that he can probably deflect it or at least get to there, again, to the same guy UK's not exactly worried about shooting the ball. But Brandon, any other thoughts on this mirror image play?
Just quickly, again, first of all, for all of the things that Rob Dillingham switches, why he wouldn't call out this switch here is somewhat mind-boggling, because it's tailor-made. Justin Edwards smacks right into his guy on the screen. Just stay there and take away the 2. I mean, if I think it's Jordan Gainey, number 2 for them, if he runs out and hits a 3, I've been harping recently on taking away 3s, but if Jordan Gainey makes a 3 here, fine, we'll deal with it. But again, also Antonio Reeves is jumping out to the corner to guard nobody. Look at where he is. Look at where the ball is. There's nobody in the corner. Where is he going? What is he taking away? If he would stand more towards the lane line, the restricted arc, then that ball just gets thrown off of his body. He steals it, or realistically, it doesn't get thrown. So they are so undisciplined on the ball, and they're taking away things that aren't even there. And to me, the most important thing is guarding the basket. You have to protect the basket first and foremost. Everything else can come later. Let's protect the basket. And in the course of 90 seconds, Kentucky gave up 2 dunks on the exact same action to the exact same player.
Why not just pack it in and just bait them, but give them the wide open throw out to the top of the key? Why not just give them that? That
would be nice. And if we want to segue a little bit into the Vanderbilt game, we did see some positive developments from Kentucky defensively, even to the point of playing a little bit of 2-3 zone, which I think will make
which have been talked about.
What a revolutionary idea to put the big guy right on the basket.
So yes, we have developed now to a point where we put our tall guys at the rim and
a bigger guy on the ball.
And a bigger guy on the ball who is situated to actually defend what's happening as opposed to what isn't happening. And so right here we have 3 guys closer to the rim than we had anybody against Tennessee. So that is a positive development. Now, Vanderbilt will end up running some action and getting to the corner here, I believe. Number 12, Taylor. Rob Dillingham gets a little too hung up on this screen, but still fights through it, especially with this being a lefty. He's able to get a contest here. Again, Evan Taylor for Vanderbilt is a solid shooter. This is a okay shot for him, but I would rather take a contested, semi-rushed corner 3 than 2 straight dunks from Dalton Connect. So this is a positive development for Kentucky, and I think he airballs this one.
Yes, and UK gets out and running. But if we want to go back to the beginning, we've got obviously Vanderbilt doesn't have a shooter here in the corner, so it makes it easier to defend it inside. But having Reeves here, even if Reeves is more closer to the actual line here on the block, he's still in a better position to combat this cutter. And like you said, you've just got Ugo here waiting, and that's the main key here. Is you've got 2 guys in the paint. And that just makes things
clogging it up.
That just makes it a lot easier to prevent the easiest basket in the game of basketball. And we'll see kind of the exact same thing here in the next play.
We do it again.
And this is where Vanderbilt actually has their guy kind of spreading out in the corner here, even before the pass is taken out. But you've got Edwards down here and Ugo on both blocks here. And again, it clogs at the paint. You've got Rob in the middle. Tennessee ran a different action to get themselves those looks, but it's still going to be a lot easier when you've got 2 of your bigger guys there in the middle waiting. And of course, when you have Adu defending the ball, it's going to make it a lot more difficult for the inbounds passer. I think one of Kentucky's issues is it was essentially a 4-on-5 on these out of bounds plays.
The inbounder was taking himself out of the play.
Because the inbounds passer or defender like Reed or whoever it was just were not in that play until the ball was already being shot. So Brandon, you can go and
absolutely. So Kentucky's actually able to get a really good trap here in the corner. I mean, that's about as good as you can ask for coming out of an OB under here when you're still playing some zone. Now Vanderbilt kicks it out, but then again with having Ugonna and Yenso around the rim, look at where he is now. He's between them and the basket, and that's where he needs to stay essentially at all times, because now they just drive it right into him. Eventually here as the ball gets moved, and now you have, two of the most athletic vertical players on the team, Aduthiero and Zvonimir, to cover this up. This guy has a 0% chance of making this shot, and he ends up kind of just throwing it back to the perimeter. And then they drive it, and again, it's right into a 7-footer at the rim. Now that they end up calling a foul here is what it is, but again, it
was not a layup.
Yeah, it was not a layup, and we are talking about baby steps when we're trying to look for improvement on Kentucky's defense. Admittedly, the bar is low, so we did not give up direct layups to Vanderbilt on Tuesday night. That would have been so that is a positive. I think the 2-3 zone will help keep guys around the rim. Again, in these last 2 clips, you saw 3 players. With Rob Dillingham on this one, almost 4, with him being at the SEC logo there, where 4 guys are closer to the rim than anybody was against Tennessee, and that's how you don't give up layups. It sounds elementary, but again, we're talking about elementary things.
Well, I think doing the zone helps negate the idea that Rob can get stuck on switches.
Right.
Where now he's just guarding an area as opposed to having to communicate and talk with another man and try and switch at the last second.
Correct.
Whereas now he can just stay here, and it makes just life a little bit easier on Rob, who's kind of already an erratic defender in the first place.
Yes. Erratic is a very
nice
good
way to put it.
Yeah. And
then here's kind of Stephen wanted to throw this one in, kind of a breakdown, but UK still they improve on this play here.
Yeah. You see this time as Stephen clicks through it here. Again, if you can take it back 2 frames, Stephen. Again, where's Reed Shepherd looking? I don't really understand. He has his back turned to his man. He's not really down at the rim, but so it allows his man to sneak behind him to potentially get a layup here. But the thing that helps
is you have a 7-footer on the ball.
You have you have Aaron Bradshaw, 7'1", on the ball, actually somewhat between the ball and the basket. Whereas again in those Tennessee clips, he would have been jumping all the way out to the corner for no reason. So it just makes this pass a little harder, and you'll see they don't really get it delivered because it's just a harder pass.
And you also have Antonio cheating in as well.
It's just a lot more clogged up. And again, that's what you're really trying to do, is you're trying to clog the lane on OB under defense, and there's just nothing they can really get out of this. And even though Reed kind of got caught slipping a little bit and his man was able to get to the block for a potential layup, they just can't execute it.
Well, and to go back to some of the mistakes earlier, obviously Kentucky gets the ball here, but if you have Reed on defending the ball here, the Vanderbilt guy, he hesitates at first trying to make this pass in because he has a 7-footer on him. He probably can't make that pass because Aaron is already there anticipating it ready. Right. Whereas if you have either Reed or Reeves or Rob or whoever, they can get that pass around much easier. So you can afford, I don't know if that's the right word, but you can afford a minor slip up because you have other guys around.
You have people there to cover up some mistakes.
Yes.
That's the whole point of having 2 7-footers in the game, is to have some rim protection to cover up other mistakes.
Mm-hmm. Would you like to see Big Z? I think. Would you guys like to have seen Big Z maybe be down a little bit closer to the rim like Ugana was?
In my opinion, that would be. There's never a bad time for Ugana Onyenso, Aaron Bradshaw, or Zvonimir Ivišić to be at the rim, in my opinion. They're never going to be wrong for standing at the rim and being 7
There's
foot.
no defensive 3 seconds.
Right. Not in college, not yet at least. So in a perfect world, get in there more. But again, we're talking baby steps. These were baby steps in the right direction.
All right, everyone's favorite. Well, before we start, I'm of the belief that they should have fouled right there. I think that they should have fouled. I think there was only a 1 or 2 second instance, so I don't blame them for not fouling.
Right.
Yes. And the thing is too, where do you tell them to foul?
Exactly. And that would be part of it.
A controller, like you like to say.
The other counter to that is Cal could have called a timeout after Rob's first free throw.
Correct.
And they could have set it up that way.
We can talk about that too.
Yeah, and you go through the mental mistake or the mental thought process of, do you want to ice your own shooter? Obviously Rob missed it anyways, so.
Now, I read a book that says icing shooters or field goal kickers
does not work. Because it doesn't.
It doesn't.
It has
no effect.
It's all muscle memory.
Yeah.
Essentially. So.
And to answer your question, there's really no time.
There's a 1 to 2 second sequence where they could foul.
There's no time where they could have told them to foul.
Yeah.
Where it would come in is if you just already, like, if you want to foul, which admittedly, I mean, Cal said he didn't really want to foul, I think.
Yeah.
So I mean, okay, like that then we can debate philosophy, but that's a different
and
thing.
that's just his philosophy.
But yeah, it's like, you can't tell them to foul in the moment. It's that they have to know, okay, up 3 at 8 seconds we foul.
Yeah.
So like you don't have to communicate.
That was around 9 seconds actually.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah. I think like right here is like 7.8.
Yeah.
That's where I circled it online. But
And ideally, I feel like that would be great. I mean, again, I don't know what I'm talking about compared to you guys, but I just don't know if I trust to like not. Yeah,
that's fair.
And maybe
that's why I was like, I think that they should have fouled, but I'm not mad.
I was more upset.
I was mad at our rapid reaction.
3 seconds. Because you remember the Vanderbilt game last year? Mm-hmm. Like,
well, they lost.
Got a great look from 3.
Yeah.
And it hit the front of the rim. I mean, it was right on line.
Yeah.
Walk off 3 to win the game. I would have loved to have set something up, because I don't mind scrambling. I just don't think scrambling at 3 seconds is ever going to lead to anything but a half court.
Yeah, there's just there's not very much time there. But yeah, I mean, to me, when you get into this play, like of fouling, not fouling, you know, to me, you should almost remove the debate of fouling or not fouling from the situation, because like that's a much larger topic that we could spend an hour citing.
Like you said, that's a philosophy. Like that's just a coach's own.
Exactly, and like, we could sit here and compare notes and scholastic journals of whether you should foul or not. That's not what we're going to do.
But fouled.
He's fouled. He has not fouled. It's probably worked and not worked both ways at some point in his career. But yes, I think here, you know, generally speaking, you want to foul between like 4 and 7, 4 and 8, 4 and 9 seconds. Well, Florida brought the ball down with like 13. Mm-hmm. So that in a lot of ways that'd be too early. You get into a situation where you have to trade possessions. You don't want to do that too often, especially when it's not like Kentucky's lights out from the free throw line. Mm-hmm. We just saw it. I mean, this would all be a moot point if Rob Dillingham would have made a free throw. So, you know, there's that aspect to it as well. But yes, like right here, as they get downhill off of the screen, this is Zion Pullen from Florida getting downhill. As soon as he got downhill, we probably should have just kind of wrapped him up and fouled him.
There's about 8-9 seconds.
Yes, yeah, it's like 7.8 to 9 seconds, and there would have been when we fouled him. Probably would have been a good thing to do. But again, just like it's all is a moot point if Rob Dillingham makes a free throw. Or again, look at Reed Sheppard, buddy. Like, this is Walter Clayton Jr. At this point, I think he'd made 5 threes in the game.
All on Reed.
Yeah, but most of them coming on Reed. He's a 38% three-point shooter. Like, at no point in the game should your defense look like this when you're guarding Walter Clayton Jr. Then turn that up to 11, just like the sound in here, when Walter Clayton Jr. has already made 5 threes. Turn that up to 12 when there's like 7 seconds left in the game and it's a 3-point game. Like, the only thing you can't do here is give up a 3. Like, Reed Sheppard should be like, to use the Hoosiers quote, he should know like what flavor gum Walter Clayton Jr. is chewing by the end of the game. Like, he should be in his jersey right here. And it's like, there's nothing happening down there, and it's a 3-point game. If he scores a layup, we all celebrate. It's the greatest thing in the world.
John Woods did it.
Yeah.
When he scored a 2.
Right, yeah, we would all be laughing like, oh my gosh, the Gators are so stupid. They just took a layup. So like there's just no reason to not be out here. And I want him to do it so bad. That's why I'm getting fired up. But I mean, there are so many breakdowns here of, yes, like, we talked about it, like where you could have called a timeout and talked about this after Rob's first free throw. Now, as a coach, I think it's hard to call a timeout in that situation and look your shooter in the eye and say, this is what we're going to do after you miss this. Now, you know, there's ways you can word it that can make it come out better, but like ultimately that's kind of what you're doing. I think that's hard to do. But you know, obviously we could have fouled, obviously we could have made the free throw, but at the end of the day, it is a defensive breakdown that lost the game. It's not fouling. It's honestly not even missing the free throw. It's a defensive breakdown that we see, and we spend time on Floppy Action talking about every 10 days or so of like, it's the same things over and over, and that's what gets so frustrating.
Yeah, and Reed and Calipari both, after this game, both mentioned, you know, Cal said that Reed had a breakdown and Reed acknowledged that he broke down. And I know that over the last couple weeks, a big thing that they're trying to do is do more stunting at shooters as opposed to actually flying and trying to get those blocks. But there's that fine line because Reed is such a good three-point shot blocker that, and Cal he even said after the last game against Vanderbilt, you have to take the good with the bad with Reed Shepherd's defense, but you can't let him go rogue at a time like that.
Right.
Because it cost Kentucky the game. And if we can just go back, we don't have to go all the way back, but just back to the main talking point of, do you foul or not here? Like I remember in our rapid reaction, I was adamant that they should have fouled. I cooled down a little bit. I'm fine with how Kentucky played this out because it really didn't come down to whether or not they fouled or not. It was just a defensive breakdown in general that cost Kentucky here because you still you could if you have the awareness, which is it's tough to have that awareness, I'm sure, in that moment to foul a guy right because you could foul him right here.
There's 3 guys that could have fouled.
You could have fouled him right here. Rob could have fouled him when he was at the top of the key. There was about a 2.5 second range, which is very small in the heat of a game. So
yes,
it's understandable that you are just caught up in what's going on. That's where just being a freshman comes in.
There's 50 things going through your head. Fouling might be one of them, but you're also worried about not giving up 3. You're trying to think of how much time's left, what's the score, all this stuff. Because it's a lot.
It was almost obvious when you watch it back now, at hindsight, that I think it's Pullen that has the ball here.
Yes.
Pullen was not trying to shoot it all here. His goal was to try and drive and get a shot for Clayton. I think that was kind of what they had already drawn up here. That's why they set this pick up at the top
and
here.
They know it's going to work against our guys who are so obsessed with the ball.
Yeah. And that's another point, is you've got guys that are ball watching, and Reed is kind of ball watching here as well.
Is he seeing ball in man?
He's seeing ball.
He's seeing ball.
And look at Trey. I mean, I feel like Trey is kind of denying that pass to whoever this guy is.
Yeah, that's probably Will Richard there. Trey's in a decent spot there. I mean, he's close enough to his man to close out. Will Richard wouldn't get a good look here.
So you would want them to overplay. You would want Reed overplaying.
Absolutely.
You do not
on his guys.
Yes.
The one shot that cannot happen in this situation is a 3-pointer.
Yeah, I mean, you legitimately, and I mean, this isn't even hyperbole.
Reed should be here.
Yeah, I mean, you would be getting out of the way to let them lay it up.
Yes. You want them.
You want them to go lay it up.
You almost want Pullen to drive in. And take this shot.
If he makes a layup here, we're talking about there being 4 seconds left in the game, and
then you get the ball into Reed. We've seen Reed hit.
Right.
Well, then can I
10 clutch free throws already.
So, do you even say should he? This is all this stuff happens so fast. We're looking at a free.
There's 1,000 different things that could have happened in this play.
Should he have just stayed back or
But see, if you're Ugo in that situation, you're thinking, we don't want them. I don't want him to get close to the hoop.
Yeah.
You don't want them to try
and that's
you want
what
to at
he's
least
trained
give.
to think.
You want to give a little bit of resistance.
Yes.
Yeah.
You don't just want to give them a free ride, even though that might be the best scenario. Because, like you said, at this point, there's about 7.8?
7.5 seconds.
7.5 seconds here. So let's say he scores. There's 5 seconds left. If he gets a wide open layup here, you're probably looking at 5 seconds left. You can pass the ball in. You could get in a situation.
Yeah. At that point, you're in the same situation as if you fouled.
Yeah.
But now there's 2 less seconds.
Yeah.
So them scoring a layup is better than fouling.
Yes.
Honestly,
yeah.
Because you just waste more time.
But the one thing that could not have happened, unfortunately, happened.
3-point shot.
So that's just a you live and learn type thing.
Yep.
I would honestly love to see Kentucky in a situation like that again.
Yeah.
I don't care that if it's a close game or if it's a bad team. I want to see them learn from those moments, and maybe we'll get a situation like that tonight against Gonzaga.
Yeah, and you want to see those situations because to have the season we all want to have, to compete to win the SEC tournament, to compete down the stretch at places like Auburn, at Alabama, some of these games we have coming up, and then ultimately in the NCAA tournament, some of these games are going to be close. Some of these games are going to come down to the final possession. So you eventually have to win games like this, and obviously it didn't work out in the Florida game, but we've seen Kentucky win a couple of close games this year. I mean, the North Carolina game was close. The first game against Florida was close at Florida, and they got wins there. So it's not like we haven't seen them beat good teams in close games.
Well, that North Carolina game seems like forever ago.
It sure does. But yeah, I mean, I think you're just going to continue to see Kentucky hopefully improving these situations, because if they don't, it's going to get them beat, and we're all going to have a lot earlier into the season.
And I think we saw a lot of, we can talk about how bad Vanderbilt is, and Vanderbilt is a very bad basketball team, but we saw some of the things that we've been complaining about that they kind of got corrected. Maybe not all the way.
Right.
But there was a clear,
It was clear that it was talked about.
Yes, it was clear that they had focused on it. That's what they've been doing in practice. We'll learn more about how that actually translates once they start playing teams like Gonzaga.
Yeah.
Auburn's going to be game day now on the road there. So you're going to have these situations where you're going to learn pretty quick. So we'll see. But all right. That was fun.
Yeah,
it's actually it's fun to see Brandon get all hyped up sometimes. He was into that last week. So, but thank you all for joining as always. Myself, I got Zach, Brandon, Steven, appreciate it. Comment, subscribe, like, whatever you'd like to do. Follow us all on our socials. You can find us wherever. But thank you all for joining. We'll see you next time.